Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your leadership and your dedicated service to Iowans, especially those who need somebody to speak for them. Your values are reflected in this budget, and I often say in this budget, it has the most boring and bureaucratic title, Administration and Regulation. And there's some truth to that. But there are very important things that this budget does, and very important people in Iowa that it takes care of. And I believe the House Omnibus Bill, the ominous House Omnibus Bill, and the priorities that it contains should shock the conscience of Iowans. Let me give you 3 examples. If the governor wants an executive chef, I believe neglected kids in Iowa deserve somebody to be with them every day who, through no fault of their own, find themselves in the court systems. The Iowa House cuts the costs of funding. I believe if the state auditor needs extra money for bean counters, that the most vulnerable seniors in this state deserve to have the facilities that they live in inspected. Yes, the House finally agreed with the Senate that those resources needed to be committed, but they don't require it in their language. And those that read this bill ought to know that. And finally, if the Department of Management bureaucrats need extra resources that the House Republicans decided to give them, then I believe human rights advocates and those who are the voice for the voiceless, deserve to have those resources as well. And so the values reflected in the budget that came over from the House, I believe, ought to shock the conscience of Iowans. Let me address a couple of the points that Senator Bartz made. I appreciate the fact that the House and Senate were close at one time. In fact, this entire body was closer to a budget agreement as we approached the last week of what would have been our normal adjournment date. But you know what, Senator Bartz? Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And we're in a debate right now that matters to Iowans. It affects their future. And I want to thank Senator Yoakum for exercising the leadership and making sure Iowans had a chance this week to really delve into the details and to understand those value judgments and the results of the kind of resources that we're going to commit. Let me also say on the budget numbers, it's interesting to see the differences in the overall amount. You mentioned drawing a line in the sand over a particular amount that can be spent. And you alluded to the fact that brought up a natural disaster. And oh, by the way, I'm a firefighter, so I wake up every morning and my job is to make sure that people are safe in their communities and that when they need help, through no fault of their own, they get it. It needs to be pointed out that there are reserve funds. We're not proposing to spend every dime. There's $600 million in both an economic reserve fund and a cash flow fund that we use for those emergencies. Nobody's proposed touching that in this session. In addition, there's maintenance of effort for federal relief that has never been in dispute. In fact, in this budget this year, we will probably spend 30 or 40 million still paying for the disasters from 2008. I haven't heard a single Republican or Democrat disagree with that expenditure line item, and it will be available. In addition, this legislature a couple of years ago provided the governor with executive authority to spend for emergencies, and that money is still there, and I haven't heard any Republican or Democrat in either chamber contemplate eliminating that. So it's not the case that this budget is in jeopardy because every reserve is going to be spent. We actually have good financial decisions in place that will make sure Iowans are taken care of in those emergencies. And like every Iowan has done in their own circumstances, we'll find a way to pull together, work together, and make it happen. What we're here to talk about is going forward, what kind of resources we're going to commit to the priorities that Iowans care about. And I just think if you look at these budget decisions that came over from the House, the governor wants a chef. Well, I think kids that are the most vulnerable need some help too. State auditor needs extra money for bean counters in his office. Vulnerable seniors deserve to have somebody stand up and watch out for them so they can age gracefully and safely in place. And finally, if the Department of Management bureaucrats need extra resources as the House gives them, And I believe human rights advocates who are the advocate and the voice for the voiceless deserve those resources as well. And I'm going to fight to make sure that happens. Thank you, Madam Chair.